Hi guys. We are going to be working today on first steps for our peach still life painting. And like any painting, and even when we painted the landscapes, if you remember, we needed to paint this guy first, which is the background. And we're going to paint this landscape or this still life or this painting from the background forward as well. And just like I mentioned in the video yesterday, like we're going to be kind of going step by step. Like there's not a way to finish a watercolor painting in like all one go. You have to paint and then let it dry and then go back and paint again. And so we are going to be working on the painting itself. And there's one option, there's one kind of extra thing you can do if you want. And then you get two colors in the background. And that is to make like a table line. So you can use like the edge of a sheet of paper, or you can grab a ruler and you can add a line for the table into your still life. You want to make sure that it goes like past the edge of the fruit. Okay, so I could draw the table line here. It's past the edge of the plate. Or here, I probably wouldn't want to make it way up because then it's just going to be like a stripe across the top, which might be a little odd later. So here is one with a table line. Here's one without a table line. So you can go ahead and add a table line or not. 100% up to you. If you're going to paint the table line, obviously this back here would be wall. So it'd be a separate color. You could also put some kind of texture on it, like with alcohol or salt or a little paper towel lift off texture back there. Or you could leave that, do that a solid color and do some sort of texture technique on the table. So those are options for you. I'm going to go ahead and paint first just the regular one, just all solid watercolor in the background. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water in my paint so that I have paint that's wet and ready to go. And then I'm going to pull some of that paint down here onto my mixing tray. So we don't ever want to take paint just right out of the paint container. We always want to be making sure that we're mixing it with water out here on the tray. Now I know that we're making a painting of peaches, and peaches are kind of golden, yellow orange with some pinks, and I've decided I want kind of a grayish sort of green color in the background. So you can see that I'm mixing up that color. Cat here, my paintbrush. And kind of mixing up an extra like shadowy kind of color over here. So I've put red because it is kind of a greenish into some of that same color over here as well. And then I'm just going to dull that down. Let's see. I might have enough paint to go ahead and move forward. Don't want it to be too blue and I don't want it to be too green. Just want it to sort of be in between the two. And what I'm going to do is I'm kind of thinking about having my painting be a little darker on one side and gradually get kind of lighter as we move across. And so I'm going to start over here where I want my painting darker. And you can see I'm going to use my paintbrush to just very carefully paint around the edge of the plate. Going back for more paint as I decide that I don't quite have enough. I'm carefully going around the edges of the peaches as well and kind of working my way out from there. Then I'm going to grab some extra water. That extra water is going to lighten it up over here on this second half of the painting. And we'll just allow like for just some visual difference in the background. Really flat, all the same paint, just is kind of boring to look at actually. So if you're having a hard time making this kind of look good back here, you can go ahead and use one of those texture techniques that we learned a little bit. There are all sorts of options like that that you can use. I'm running out of paint, so I'm gonna mix up a little bit more. And if it changes a little bit when it comes over here, that's totally fine. You'll see that even though I know that there is a shadow under this plate, I am going to paint right over it right now. And the reason for that is the shadow color underneath objects is always going to be related to the table color or to the background color. And so what I'm going to do is when the paint is wet, so I'm adding water again. This left-hand side of my painting is just a little bit lighter than the right-hand side, just to kind of symbolically nod at the fact that light would be coming from one direction and not another. So you can see I have the whole thing painted. If you happen to have tape at home, it's really useful to tape these down, either right to your table or to a piece of cardboard, even to another piece of paper, like a paper grocery bag. You can see that my paper is like twisting up all over the place. And if I had it taped down, I wouldn't have to hang on to it so that it stays kind of flat on my table. So if you're finding that you're frustrated, that can be sort of a good tip. Over here now, this is that weird like reddish version of the color that I mixed up. I just need it to be darker. And darker a lot of times means we mix in some complementary colors. And while this table is wet, I'm just going to bump that darker color in, because this is where that shadow is under the plate. Okay. And then what will happen is that the color will mix along with the table color that I've put in there. And then it's also going to drift a little bit because everything's a little wet. And will end up feeling very natural later on when we start to finish the painting. So there you go, step one. We now have to wait for it to dry. If I start to try to paint anything else, it's just going to be a wet mess. So go ahead, let your painting dry after you paint the background.